All right, so I'm going to go back to the Chicago Blackhawks theme, and guys either leaving Chicago or arriving to Chicago. So we're talking about the Blackhawks a lot on this pod, which is interesting, but I'm going to talk about a guy who left Chicago, and it's really benefited him, and that is Kirby Dach of the Montreal Canadiens. I had no idea until today, actually, boys, how good he's been in Montreal. He's got 14 points in 15 games. He's almost a point-a-game player, and what a pickup here for the Habs. We talked about it with Kubalik, why the Blackhawks gave him up, and I'm wondering the same thing, why they gave up 21-year-old Kirby Dach, a third overall pick in 2019. I know he had a couple of rough years there, but especially when you're rebuilding, I'm scratching my head and wondering why Kyle Davidson decided to let this guy go. It was a big swing that Kent Hughes took at the draft when he acquired this guy for a first-round pick and let go of Alexander Romanov in that first round as well. But, man, it's paying off, and he's been that third guy on that top line with Caulfield and Suzuki. Man, like, that could end up being one of the best lines in the NHL for years to come. This is so good for the Montreal Canadiens. He looks like a core piece to a very young, exciting team right now that's staying in the mix, that is staying in the race, and him playing with Caulfield and Suzuki, it's just a great fit. He's a big body. We know that the talent is there. He just had a couple of rough years, and this goes back to getting injured right before the World Juniors. He was the captain of Team Canada. He got hurt right before the tournament, and then that followed up with a couple of tough years in Chicago afterwards. So this guy's really benefited from a change of scenery. I love the player, and I'm really happy for him in Montreal.
Yeah, I'm really happy about this move for Kirby Dach because everyone loved him due to the World Juniors. And I don't think that Chicago did anything right with this guy. They shoehorned him into the NHL a little early, in my opinion. And then weird utilization and then trying to get him back after injury right away. It just didn't seem like they picked right at all. And now trading him is the biggest error they've made yet. So I don't know. I was definitely a little shocked when you think about direction, you try to think about where a team is heading. These are the type of trades that you get confused with. Like Montreal's made a few of those trades as well, as same as like the Senators 2 years ago or last year. They've figured it out. Maybe, I don't know. And but yeah, this has been great for Kirby Dach, and it's been a great fit. And that team is young and fun. They're not very good yet, but they're fun, and they will be good.
Yeah, Case, you said that they shoehorned Kirby Dach into the league. Not only did they force him into the league too early, when he should have gone and played a year either in the minors or in junior or whatever, wherever, somewhere with lesser competition where he could dominate. But they also kind of pigeonholed him as well into like a third line center role when he was playing there. Yeah. And he was playing down the middle against tough competition with a defensive assignment. And it was like just kind of mind boggling how he was utilized. And like now you look at him in Montreal, he's playing on the top line. He's playing wing. And it's like, oh, idea, play him somewhere where he can succeed. And that's what Montreal's doing, playing him on the top line with two of their best players. And he's had a great start. The thing is about, the whole trade and everything that happened at the draft there, he didn't fit the timeline for the Blackhawks anymore. Neither do Taves and Kane, but they're, I guess, more difficult to move because they're bigger deals. But if this team is going to properly rebuild, which it seems like they are, the trade doesn't really confuse me much because in exchange for Dach, who, yes, is young, but kind of soured over the years because, like we mentioned, he was pigeonholed into a spot and forced in the league and blah, 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 blah. Now they have Kevin Kurchinski, and he should be good in the future. So it's like...
Yeah.
He fits their timeline more, is what I'm trying to get at, and I don't fault them for doing that.
Kirby Dach was going to become the next Clayton Keller if it wasn't for this deal, I think.
Yes, exactly. So I am glad that the deal happened, and I don't fault Blackhawks management. You don't hear that often. I don't fault Blackhawks management. You usually do fault them because they've been terrible over the years, but I don't fault them for this move because they are leaning into a rebuild, getting a younger player and doing it properly. So,
and that wasn't a shot at Clayton Keller, by the way. That was like he's entering his prime and the team is still trailing behind. It's like a weird time for him. He was a young guy playing right when they started the rebuild.
Yes, and a similar situation, like not that the team is bad, but a similar situation with a prospect right now that we're seeing in Toronto actually is Nick Robertson. It's like, is he an NHL player or not? And I know it's kind of different, but it's like eventually, you know, if you don't have a guy in a favorable position for a long enough period of time and see some production, essentially you're kind of just ruining the prospect, and that's, you know, that could have happened with Dach. I'm not saying that Keller was ruined, but I get the whole point there that you were making, Case, that, you know, Keller was just there at a time, you know, probably too early, and now he's just there still sticking around. And, you know, it can't be good on a guy to not produce at the level that you have at every other level before that when you get to the NHL, right? Like, it's got to be frustrating and difficult if you're that kind of player. So anyway, Kirby Dach has had a phenomenal start to the season, and I am pumped for the guy because he deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just quickly on Clayton Keller, like, you know, he's finally starting to produce now, as you guys said, which is great to see. And that team is getting better, and which is great. And but with Chicago, yes, they make this deal, and to me, at least, it was a bit of a head scratcher. But, you know, talk about taking big swings at that draft. Kent Hughes took a couple of big swings for Montreal, but so did Kyle Davidson. Like, let's not forget that, and I know we're getting a little off topic here talking about the Blackhawks, but, like, let's not forget that the Blackhawks didn't have a first-round pick going into that draft, and they ended up with 3. And the Korchinski pick, that was actually from the Ottawa trade for Alex DeBrincat. So I think the pick to take Frank Nazar was the pick that they got from Montreal, and then they had a third in there when they drafted Sam Rinzel. So to get rid of Dach and DeBrincat, two big parts of your team, but to get Korchinski and Nazar, that's pretty good as well.
Yeah, so the guy that's
fell pretty far too. So
the guy that's already commented on this post saying, like, oh, it was the Frank Mazur pick, not the Korchinski trick. You can go back and reply to your own comment and settle down.
Yeah, and you know what, Case? It's funny because I said before we started the show that I wasn't streaming. Well, it turns out I am on YouTube, so no comments yet. But you know, if you are watching this live, don't want to hear about me messing up the picks. You know, it was one of the two. They were picked pretty close. I think it was like, I mean, God, I don't want to dig myself a deeper hole here, but I think it was like 7th and 13th or something. So pretty damn close.
No one needs to comment now. I got you. It's all good.
Thanks, Harp.